What's up, and who dat, everybody? Welcome to another amazing episode of the Who Dat This podcast. We're always a part of Fansided, and we are here to bring you another amazing episode from our beloved team that we're covering, the New Orleans Saints, of course. We're previewing the Divisional round matchup against the Minnesota Vikings with a very special guest today. As always, I'm your co-host, Tyler Raymond.
And I'm also your host, Dayton Brown. Today's episode is coming at you the Friday before New Orleans heads to Minneapolis with a trip to the NFC Championship on the line. Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, be sure to follow us on Twitter at the WDD Podcast so you can stay up to date with everything we do. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for today's show. He's the site expert of the Viking Age, which is, of course, the fan-sided site for all things Minnesota Vikings. And he has been there for almost 5 years, which is incredible. He's also a co-host over at Purple People Podcast, which you guys can check out on Fansided as well. And on top of that, he's the site expert over at Undead Walking for all of you Walking Dead super fans. Please welcome, joining us from St. Paul, Minnesota, Adam Carlson. Adam, how are you, man?
Hey, thank you for that warm introduction.
Of course.
I gotta say, it's weird sitting through an introduction where people aren't talking about the Minnesota Vikings. It's like, I'm sitting here, because I've been doing the Purple People podcast for, like, almost 5 years now, too, so.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of sitting here like, this is really weird not talking about Minnesota Vikings football already.
Right. Have you been on guests on other podcasts before?
Not an opposing team's podcast. This is the first one, so yeah.
That's awesome. We're honored to have you. That's fantastic.
I appreciate you guys bringing me on.
That deserves a clap, of course. That deserves an audience clap. That's fantastic stuff right there. Adam, thank you again for coming on. How are things over at the Viking Age? Obviously, you guys have had a phenomenal season. Surprising to most. I don't know if it was surprising to the Vikings fan base. I think it was surprising to the rest of the people. How has it been over there this season for you guys?
You know, it's already been a bit of a roller coaster because when the season started, everyone expected bigger things with, Sam Bradford. You got Dalvin Cook coming in, who's kind of like an explosive player, building off this, fantastic defense the Vikings already had. And then things just started to crumble. And in typical Vikings fashion, you hope for the best, but expect the worst.
Right.
Because, we've seen so much heartbreak over the years that it's hard to get excited about anything anymore.
Yeah.
So, when some of those players started going down, it just got to the point where, you're thinking, oh, here this comes again.
Right.
And it never came.
Which is awesome. You guys were consistently great. This, like, with Case Keenum as your quarterback, again, we'll get into this a little bit later, but yeah, a lot of teams will go Case Keenum as your quarterback. That almost spells, like a mediocre season at best. And he's been doing phenomenal for you guys. Like we mentioned, Purple People Podcast, you're the co-host over there. Where can people find that? Are you guys on Blog Talk Radio as well?
No, we are a YouTube live show. So
great.
If there are Vikings fans out there, we go live. You can join in the chat, ask us questions, interact, comment. It's really cool format that we enjoy a lot. And if you're not able to make it live on YouTube, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, pretty much anywhere you can imagine. Google Podcasts, all over the place.
That's awesome. YouTube Live, yeah, that's actually a great tool. We had Sean Williams on the show last week. He hosts a Similar Saints podcast, and he uses that same format, going to YouTube Live via Google Hangouts, being able to interact with the audience live right there. So really exciting. And you've been doing that as well for almost 5 years, about the same amount of time as Viking Age?
Well, a little bit before the Viking Age, because I started that as a hobby with a friend because at the time I was unemployed, and I was sitting at home, and I was just getting cabin fever so bad because I couldn't find a job, and I was struggling so bad to make ends meet. You can only clean the house so many times, cook dinner for the family so many times,
right,
before you're just like, I got to do something else. So we started that up, and it wasn't much longer after that I finally got the call from Fansided, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got brought on as a contributor, and then our expert had a problem going on, and a personal problem happened, and they needed someone to step in for a little while. And I said, it's an opportunity to move up, and anytime you can get that kind of opportunity, you kind of got to take it and run with it.
Right.
Like we saw with Case Keenum, when the opportunity came up, he took it and ran.
Exactly. You are the Case Keenum of the Viking Age, confirmed right here on this podcast.
The problem that he had, he was able to come back, and they kept me on as a co-expert at that time. But then the problem came back, and he ended up having to leave permanently. So that made me the permanent expert on the site. And since then, I've brought in Adam Patrick, who's got the Bleeding Purple podcast, which is pretty cool. And he's a bit more of an opinionated writer than I am.
Right.
Makes a nice balance because I'm more like, I like writing the feel-good stuff a lot.
Good.
The charity events and those kind of things. I like to look at the positive side of sports. I don't like to drag players down and root, against other teams.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not that guy, but it's nice to have that kind of balance. That's what I love.
The positive side of sports is the least covered side is the crazy thing. So total respect to you for doing that. And I'm guessing you've been a Vikings fan for your entire life?
Well, when I was younger, I used to listen to the Vikings games with my grandpa out in the garage on the radio while he was working on stuff, and it was a fantastic time. It was great bonding time with my grandpa.
Yeah.
And he'd always get so mad, swearing at the radio and everything, and his passion for Minnesota sports was great. He was a big Twins fan too, and luckily he got to see the Twins reach the pinnacle of their profession, but never got to see the Vikings do it, and he wanted to see that happen before he passed away, and sadly that didn't get to happen, so I'm picking up his legacy.
There you go. That's fantastic. Yeah. So, again, Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to jump into topic one. Tyler, how are you doing, by the way?
Good as always.
How is playoffs, baby?
Playoffs,
baby. Are you still getting snow up in New York?
Right now it's actually been mostly rain and fog. The snow is sort of went away.
Okay, that's good. As long as you're not getting, because I know Sean was complaining about the cold in Louisiana last week, and you're like negative degrees. So just want everybody.
We're -4 right here in Minnesota.
And I was gonna say, and we're bringing on a guy from Minnesota, and you guys are always like frozen. So, again, Adam, thanks again for coming on. We're gonna jump into topic number one. It's here, the game of the season for both of these teams. The Saints and Vikings look to survive and advance. New Orleans travels to the site of Super Bowl 52, coming off a 31-26 shootout win over division rival Carolina. The Vikings are coming off a bye week, and as Adam mentioned before we hopped into the podcast, it's been a very long 2-week break for Vikings and their fans. Just need that football, man, so Sunday's going to be exciting for you guys. They're coming off a bye, and they are, of course, the 2 seed in the NFC. This is after one of the most surprising and impressive seasons, and I mean at least a decade that we've seen in the NFL. Both teams are meeting for the first time in the playoffs since 2009, in which the Saints won. 2010 was when it happened. 2009, the 2009 season. Yeah, I'm sorry to bring that up, Adam. But this is also a rematch of Week 1, in which the Vikings won on Monday night, 29-19. So that might make you feel a little bit better. Me bringing that up. Let's just jump right into it. Besides injuries, and this is what everybody wants to know, and this is what everybody has been covering, and I want to get your opinion on this. Besides the injuries to, of course, Sam Bradford and Dalvin Cook, both went to IR. What is the biggest difference between Minnesota Week 1 and Minnesota that's playing this weekend?
The sad part is the biggest difference is actually because of an injury, and it's actually the mobility of Case Keenum.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Bradford has that bad knee, and he's never really been a mobile quarterback to be able to roll out of the pocket and buy himself time. And Case Keenum's been able to be a bit of a magic man to escape a lot of situations where he should have been on his back. And that kind of ability to buy time or even pick up yards with his legs is something that was really not even thought of as being a part of Sam Bradford's game. So for me, it adds that extra element to the game that makes it a little more interesting, because when you face off against a defense that can stay with receivers that well, or the running game isn't really working, you can kind of chip away a little bit there and force defenses to be a little more honest. So to me, that's the biggest difference, is having that ability for Case Keenum to be able to do things when everything else falls apart.
And I was watching some tape on Keenum, Vikings as a whole, but also specifically Keenum. And there were a couple games, I want to say it was against Washington and Los Angeles. I could have the games mixed up, but I think in both of those games he had plays where he scrambles a little bit outside of the pocket, and he has to reset his feet 2 or 3 times because of the pressure, but he's still able to get away and throw a bomb down the field, or at least get to an open guy. And I'm just watching this guy going, how is he able to not only go down, but B, have the strength to throw that ball. And we saw...
And C, keep his eyes downfield.
Exactly.
While he's running. I don't understand how NFL players can do that.
I don't understand how NFL players, and then also Case Keenum, coming into the season, didn't have as much time to practice with this offense as, a regular starting quarterback would have. So he's kind of thrown into all this. Obviously, over the season, he's gotten better and progressed more and learned the offense as the weeks go on. But, starting out, he didn't get the reps that a regular starting quarterback would in the preseason. He's not as familiar with these guys, so he's able to stay up in the pocket, get the throw down, keep his eyes down the field, and understand where his receivers are going. Again, you got to credit Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, all those weapons being able to find open spaces to help Keenum out this season. I think that's been one of the more underrated parts of your guys' offense is the, I guess, improvisational ability of your receiving core to help Keenum out in situations like that, and just overall getting open, and it's just been fantastic to watch. Tyler, for the
Adam
Saints,
Thielen does something unbelievable. He has a nonstop motor. Now, when he finishes running his route, if he looks back and he sees that Keenum hasn't gotten rid of the ball, he will scramble to find open places, and somehow they're always on the same page to where they can deliver the ball. And for Case Keenum to be able to have that kind of reliability in a receiver, it's really amazing.
You got to love that extra hustle from Thielen. He's been, ever since he's been in the league, he's needed to prove himself and earn everything he's gotten, and he has done exactly that. And he's not a guy you think would worry you. He worries me a lot in this game. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season. Local guy too from Minnesota State, right? Yeah, which is awesome. So shout out, like I said, Keenum has been great. Tyler, same question for you, but for the Saints between Week 1 and now. What's the biggest difference? Obviously, I mean, you look at Devontae Harris hasn't been playing much, but he was matched up with Stephon Diggs for a lot of Week 1. Now we have Ken Crawley in there. What else do you think is the biggest difference between the Saints then and the Saints now?
The rhythm. I think right now, I feel like if you could almost cut the team that played the Minnesota Vikings, at the early beginning of the season, and this team right now, right down the middle, they're night and day, and I think both on the offensive side and the defensive side. On the offense, you've got a team, that is consistently getting down to the red zone, scoring points. On the defensive side, you have a team that's making turnovers, getting sacked, stopping the run. I just think right now we're a lot more confident team. We know who we are. We have the swagger to help propel us even further. And I just think right now we're really confident, and we've got a thing going for us.
Yeah.
But that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Mind if I jump in and answer this about the Saints?
Yes, sir. Hey, please.
See, I was at this game in Minnesota. I was in the stands cheering on the Vikings.
Nice.
And what I noticed throughout the game was that having Adrian Peterson was more of a distraction than a bonus to the Saints in the Week 1.
Absolutely.
I felt like he was taking away from opportunities of the other running backs and really taking away from what the Saints do best. And it sucks as a Vikings fan to say that Adrian Peterson was damaging to the Saints in some respects, but there's a reason why the Saints moved on from him and why he's not a part of their offense right now. Yeah. And it's because he just doesn't fit what they try to do. And the Saints were trying to force him in there to try to get him going. Much like Minnesota did, but Minnesota was a little different where they based everything around him. The Saints have Drew Brees, and they don't have to base everything around a running back. This isn't a team where you need to put Christian Ponder on your back and run through an offensive line.
Right. Like, good one. I like that. And I agree with you. For Peterson, not only was he a distraction for this team, didn't fit in, but when we signed him and he's on the sideline for us, and especially as a coaching staff, you almost feel inclined to give Adrian. You have Adrian Peterson on your sideline. Give him the ball. I feel like that's how the coaching staff kind of was inclined. We have Adrian Peterson, one of the best running backs of all time. He's on our sideline. Give him the ball. I don't care who else we have. That's kind of how it felt while we had him for the 4 weeks, and especially in Week 1, because again, he got the start, and like you said, took away snaps from Ingram and Kamara, both guys who needed to get rhythm going early, and we've seen how great both of their seasons have been, both of the guys Pro Bowlers. So, I would say, and thank you for jumping in on that, Adam, because that piggybacks off of what I think my biggest difference is the way we've changed this offense to highlight both Kamara and Ingram. We didn't need Peterson after all. When we first signed him, I thought it was a good signing. The more talent, the merrier. But again, it just became a distraction. Didn't fit schematically. And so now you have him out, and now this offense is just ran by Ingram and Kamara, both figuratively and literally. Historic seasons for both of them. Really excited to see how they'll fare against this really talented Minnesota defense. It's going to lead me into my next question for you, Adam. What's one thing or one player wearing purple on Sunday that Saints fans need to pay close attention to? In other words, X factor, key to the game, can be one specific player, can be, I guess, a group of players. What do you think?
This is the question I've been asked the most leading into this game, is what the difference maker is going to be. And I've said 2 different players, and now I'm finally committing to one of them. And I was saying Tom Johnson because I wasn't sure. I wasn't feeling too great about the Saints left guard situation. But I feel like they have enough experience there to where they can get by, which is why I'm going to go with Everson Griffin going against the Saints left tackle, Teron Armstead, because Armstead's been dealing with that hip injury.
Yeah.
And Griffin has that nonstop motor, and he can be a game changer when he can block stuff up or get to the quarterback. And I feel like he might be the biggest difference maker in this game if he can get going.
13 sacks on the season, Everson Griffin had. He's been playing lights out. He could win Defensive Player of the Year. He's a Pro Bowler again. And again, yeah, Armstead dealing with that injury. It's been nagging at him for a lot of the season. He's been playing decently. I mean, Drew Brees, one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league, and hopefully, I mean, we've only gone up against this defense like Minnesota once this season. That was obviously in Week 1 against them. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm glad.
Yeah, he's going to need to be better than decent to take on Everson Griffin. He's
Yeah.
going to need to get his top of his game there.
Do you expect to see either double teams or a lot of chip blocks against Griffin then from the Saints?
I don't know if that would be in the Saints' best interest. I mean, the Saints have Zach Line, and they could use him if they need to.
Yeah.
Which, again, former Viking, so it's kind of hard to even say that with a straight face. But, it's like they will need to figure out some way to counteract with him if things start getting out of hand. But I don't expect the Saints to, game plan immediately, like set something in place. I think they'll see how Armstead does and then make adjustments during the game, which is something that both the Saints and the Vikings are great at doing, is making adjustments during the game.
And the Saints also had to put Andres Pete on IR as well, who was our starting left guard. So now we have Senio Clemente playing, another backup. We had to sign Bryce Harris. So that's also going to affect us too, because now Griffin has a chance to not only beat us, against not 100% healthy Teron Armstead, but he also has a chance to go up against a backup guard to try to get to Drew Brees.
And I think that Tom Johnson, who's going to be lined up across from him, is one of the most underrated guys on the defensive line in the NFL. For him to be between Everson Griffin and Linval Joseph, who are going to get a ton of attention both, he could have a sneaky good game.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this might be one in the trenches. This game
is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Tyler, what do you think is going to be the X factor for the Saints, Vikings, both, whatever you want to say, man? What's the X factor to you?
Well, the original question he asked was, what was one player, wearing purple the Saints need to be aware of? I was just going to answer that one. I was just going to say Everson Griffin. He's a good player, Pro Bowler. The Saints know who he is, but yeah, I would just go with that.
Oh, okay, Mr. Technical. Give me a Saints X factor then. I'll put you on. Put you in the spotlight. Give me an X factor for the Saints.
Willie Snead.
Really?
Brandon Coleman. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still on the Snead train.
I like it.
Someone needs to get involved.
Yeah.
This is why. Okay. Yeah, you have Brandon Coleman, who I believe fumbled, right? And the Panthers, right?
He did. Luckily, Ingram recovered it, but he did fumble.
Yeah, he recovered it. But the thing is, when Coleman's been a reliable receiver, but I'm still on the train of getting more people involved. If Drew Brees just throws to Brandon Coleman, Ted Ginn Jr., Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, the Vikings defense is going to become aware of that and try to shut down those players. But if you have your once slot demon receiver, Willie Snead, in the game, catching 4 or 5 passes for 50, 60 yards, maybe they'll throw him off a bit. So,
I like
it.
I like it.
See, I've got a similar concept, but a different player as for the Saints X factor. I really am afraid of Ted Ginn. I am.
I
There you
love
go.
Ted Ginn. Last week, or I guess it would be last week, right before the Panthers game. I said X factor to this game is going to be getting Ted Ginn Jr. down the field, or maybe somebody else. But I pointed out Ted Ginn Jr. getting him down the field and trying to open up the doors, open up the floodgates with a big touchdown, and that happened because I'm a
Psychic
fortune teller.
thing.
I can tell the future, and he got an 80-yard touchdown reception. Ted Ginn Jr. It doesn't seem like he's lost his step. But this Viking secondary is also really good. Willie Snead, I wish Willie Snead was getting more reps. Willie Snead has just pretty much been lost. I don't think we're going to have him after this season, which is really unfortunate. Luckily, Ted Ginn Jr. has stepped up. I'm glad you brought him up.
Ginn will pull that defense back and open up more room for the running game.
Yeah.
And he's going to be matched up a lot against Trey Waynes.
Yeah.
And while Trey Waynes is good, he's a physical cornerback. When he gets burnt, he relies too much on that closing speed. And his closing speed is not going to be enough against Ted Ginn.
Right.
He's not going to be able to catch up with him on a regular basis. It's a scary situation.
TGIF,
Yeah.
Ted Ginn is fast, as Sean Payton likes to say.
fast.
I have two keys to the game, and I actually, if you guys go to whodatdish.com, for those of you who are listening, if you go to whodatdish.com, this will be one of the articles on the front page. It was released this morning. It's called 2 X Factors No One is Talking About for New Orleans, Minnesota. My first X Factor for the Saints offense, it's attacking the middle of Minnesota's defense. Again, this Minnesota secondary has been great. 58.4% is the completion percentage their defense gives up against opposing quarterbacks. It's 4th best in the league. They only trail the Redskins, Chiefs, and the Jaguars. So they've been great. But at home, they're 19th at 62.8% completion percentage against opposing quarterbacks. This is all according to TeamRankings.com. So I thought that was interesting to see how large that number went up, but also you guys have played really pass-happy teams at home as well, one of them being the Saints, of course, in Week 1. So that's going to be interesting to see if you guys attack the middle of the field. Watching tape on them, I could see being able to gash Minnesota, even though Anthony Barr, I think he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Xavier Rhodes, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL to me. Harrison Smith, one of the best safeties in the entire league to me as well. You have those three guys. Even though that's the case, I feel like the middle of the field is the soft spot that New Orleans is going to have to try to hit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. Is that?
This is going to be a big game for Eric Kendricks, who's going to be manning the middle. He's got a lot of speed. He's got good instincts. And I feel like a lot of those passing numbers that you're talking about at home are kind of inflated.
Yeah.
Because of just how dominant Minnesota was in a lot of those games where they were allowing a lot of yardage in, third and fourth quarters when the game was severely out of reach. I mean, look at the Bengals game, even the Bears game. Absolutely, they gave up a lot of passes over the middle. So I feel like those numbers are a little inflated, and I feel like it kind of puts a little bit of a damper on how good of a player Eric Kendricks really is.
Right.
But yeah, I do agree that the corners will be holding down the outside, defensive line will be pushing, and it will open up a gap in the middle. And if the Saints can figure out a way to take advantage of that, it could be very, very advantageous.
And we it could even be, again, Kendricks is also really talented. You guys just have so many good guys on your team. Holy cow. It's a never-ending list of talented guys. I hate it. But it's great for you guys. But, Eric Kendricks is again, I think he's going to be another key to the game like you just brought up. And I think for our defense, we kind of alluded to this earlier. I think the key for the Saints is going to be pressuring Case Keenum. However, that would also put us at a disadvantage because, again, Marshawn Lattimore, Ken Crawley, very, very talented cornerbacks. They're going to be able to go one-on-one. But if we blitz, if we try to put pressure on Keenum, we're going one-on-one with Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. These guys live for one-on-one matchups. They're going to be able to get away from virtually. I mean, you see it against Josh Norman. You saw it against guys like Tremaine Johnson for the Rams. Even again, the Redskins had one of the best secondaries this year, and both Thielen and Diggs tore them up, and that was even in one-on-one coverage, even with the high safety over there. So that worries me about. But if we do get to Keenum often, I feel like we're at least going to get some momentum going for our defense, some balls batted down, a couple, even if we don't get sacked, some knockdowns on Keenum. Anything to get this momentum going and on a road game. That's why I want us to pressure Keenum. And according to NFL Next Gen Stats, Keenum averaged 2.78 seconds from the time the ball was snapped to the time he threw the ball. This was excluding sacks. And I believe that ranked him, let me see. He was 9th in the NFL in that category. Deshaun Watson was number 1 with 3.1 seconds. So it was very impressive for Keenum to get the ball out that quickly, even though he's faced pressure a lot of the season. A lot of teams will try to blitz him. Obviously, inexperienced quarterback, and inexperienced starting quarterbacks, teams will try to blitz him. And Drew Brees ranked 33rd, just for comparison, 33rd out of 41 quarterbacks at 2.58 seconds per throw. So Keenum has some time in the pocket. His offensive line has been protecting him fairly well this season against a lot of blitzes. He's been able to improvise like we kind of talked about earlier. Do you think it's a good idea for the Saints to pressure Keenum? You kind of talked about his injury and kind of his lack of mobility, so to speak. What do you think? What do you think on that?
I actually prefer that they bring everybody they can at Keenum. I believe Keenum had one of the best Pro Football Focus rankings under pressure in the NFL this year.
He did, yeah.
And he is very fast, very smart, very efficient. That's the best word to describe Case Keenum. He'll make some mistakes, don't get me wrong. We saw the game against Carolina where things just kind of fell apart from him. He got some bad reads, and things just didn't go his way. But for the most part this year, Keenum is able to stand in there, deliver, and buy time himself. So, yeah, I think the Vikings want the Saints to send as much pressure as possible. I actually think they're expecting it, and I believe this is actually going to work out in Minnesota's favor if they do.
Yeah, and like the Saints, the Vikings are fantastic at running screenplays as well, whether it's to Jerick McKinnon or Latavius Murray out of the backfield. So if we bring pressure, that's something to look out for. Because the best time to run a screenplay is obviously when the other team is blitzing, so that not a lot of coverage. So
exactly.
Yeah, there you go. And Adam, I have a question for you now. So obviously, no team goes unscathed when it comes to the regular season. I actually found this on Twitter from Sports Info Solutions on Twitter. They have like of the playoff teams still in the hunt right now. They have, as far as on-field injuries go, the Saints have had 32. The Vikings have had 30. So my question for you is, what player do you think what player basically do you wish that was on the field right now for the Vikings? That wasn't injured, unfortunately.
This is the absolute easiest question that I can answer, and it is Dalvin Cook, man.
Yes.
If the Vikings had Dalvin Cook, their offense, I believe, would be so much more explosive. Nothing against Jerick McKinnon. He's a fantastic player. Latavius Murray's been picking up a lot of slack, bulldozing through. And I love the combination of Jet McKinnon and Latavius Murray pounding through. The Tay Train's been picking up a lot of those touchdowns. But Dalvin Cook can do it all. I mean, he's that receiver out of the backfield. He can lower his shoulder and go through. He's got that elusiveness with the side steps and everything. Dalvin Cook just adds another dimension to the game, and I really wish that he would be available for the rest of the season. But the fact that they've been able to do as well as they have without him is incredible for a statement on what this team has as far as depth at so many positions.
He was a rookie, too, and he was playing so good. And so that's good for you guys. You guys have something to look forward to in the future. I'm with you, though. I think Cook hurt you guys the most. What'd you say, Tyler? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
What do you think I wanted to get your take on it. What do you think for you, Dayton, for the Saints? What are we missing the most?
Yeah, I'm going to go with another rookie. That's going to be, we just talked about him, Andres Pete. I think he's at a fantastic rookie camp. Andres Pete is not. Oh, my gosh. I got him mixed up with Ryan Ramczyk for a second. Andres Pete is not a rookie. He was drafted in 2015. That's totally my bad. I spaced there. But I do think Andres Pete is going to hurt us the most. Again, this pass rush for Minnesota is just phenomenal, especially, when you talk about Griffin and Johnson and that front. Just those huge guys there, and so we need as much meat as we can in the offensive line. With Pete being out, again, Clemente has played fine this season as a backup. I think he's played really good. But with Pete's a little bit different. Pete is big guy from Stanford, very intelligent offensive lineman. In a playoff environment, I feel like Pete would thrive a lot better than Clemente is going to. And again, with Armstead not being 100%, I'm a little bit worried about that side of the line. Pete again has been playing great for us. He stepped up in that role. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad Larry Warford is still healthy. I'm glad Max Unger is still healthy, and I'm glad Ryan Ramczyk is still healthy as well. I think that those three have been our best offensive linemen this entire season. But Andres Pete was going to be really important for this game, and having him out for the rest of the year, no matter what happens, I think hurts us a lot, not only for this game, but for some to come if we end up winning this game. What do you think, man?
It's funny. You go offense. I'm going to go defense. I'm going to mention a few different players. I think first and foremost, Nick Fairley, man.
Yeah.
No one seems to mention, the big dude that loves to do sack dances anymore. Obviously, I don't know if you knew this, but he had like a heart thing going on, and we're not sure if this is going to be the end of his career or not, or if he's even able to play next year. But I think, if you have Nick Fairley along with Onyemata, Tyler Davison, Sheldon Rankins, that obviously helps a ton. You had Okafor, he went down.
Yeah.
He could have really helped us, especially in the playoffs. You have not Manti Te'o. You have AJ Klein, but the thing is, Manti Te'o's been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
As is Craig Robertson. So I don't know if I see him very well. But you also have Kenny Vaccaro. But the thing is, he was penalized a ton when he was playing. So, I don't know. Bunch of guys.
I feel you. I'm glad you brought up both Fairley. Obviously, Fairley's injury happened before the season even started. We can't tell how much that has hurt us, but I think that's obviously made an impact not having him there, because he had his career year, his first season with us, which was last year. He had, I think, what was it? I think he had almost double-digit sacks, which was a career high for him at the time. And Alex Okafor as well was doing great before he had that Achilles injury. We've been playing okay without him, but still, I'm glad Hendrickson is healthy, because if both of those guys were down like they did against, I think it was the first time we played Atlanta, both Okafor and Hendrickson were out, I would be really worried, but luckily he's healthy. And then with AJ Klein and Kenny Vaccaro, the injuries suck for us, but like you mentioned, Vaccaro was penalized heavily. We also have Von Bell and Marcus Williams and Raphael Bush, guys who have been able to step up and play great. AJ Klein, same thing. Manti Te'o, Craig Robertson have been able to step up. So, I think injuries just absolutely suck. And if both of these teams were 100% healthy, this game would be even more fantastic than it's already going to be. But that's NFL. Teams are just going to have to, pick it up and go from there. And both of these coaching staffs are more than familiar with that. Speaking of coaching staffs, let's talk about schemes. Schematically on both sides of the ball, Adam, I'll start with you. How will both teams play? Do you think it's going to be conservative, risky, pass happy? What are you thinking?
The Vikings play a very conservative game. They always do. They're slow on offense. They're methodical. They want to pick up first downs, grind out the clock. Defensively, you're not going to see a lot of gambles. You're going to see a lot of safe plays. The Vikings have never really taken a lot of shots. They'll take one or two, maybe three deep passes per game, just to try to stretch things out a little bit. But they've never been that kind of team. Meanwhile, when you got so many weapons on the Saints offense, you can gamble a little bit more. And I think that those kind of gambles could pay off in a big way, or they could be the demise of their team. And offensively, the Saints will need to pick up some big yardage on some big plays. The question is whether or not they'll be able to.
Right, exactly. Against just high flying talent in your guys' defense is going to be tough to complete a lot of balls. And even though Drew Brees is coming off one of the better playoff performances you'll ever see, he's got to be a little bit worried looking at tape of this defense and be, again, you look at Anthony Barr, just how talented this team is. Anthony Barr went to UCLA, correct? Right?
Yes.
Big school, and very talented, first round pick. Harrison Smith went to Notre Dame, one of the best football colleges around there. He's played great his entire season. Xavier Rhodes went to Florida State, one of the best football colleges in all of the country. So these guys are born and bred playing football. Trey Waynes went to Michigan State. Mike D'Antoni, one of the best college coaches of all time. These guys are just born and bred in football. And now they come to Minnesota, and your guys' fan base, one of the most underrated ones ever, ever in all of the NFL currently as well. You guys are super underrated in terms of how passionate you are about the Vikings, about football, period. So these guys are coming up in this just talented football environment, and it shows on the field how much they're able to thrive, communicate, your guys' chemistry together. This is just a talented, gritty, but also finessely impressive defense and team as a whole. And so
you were talking about the fan base. I want to touch on that for a second.
Please do.
Because US Bank Stadium, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to watch a game there, It is so loud.
It is.
So loud. And you see so many teams, false starts or delay of game because they can't get the right call and they can't make the right adjustments. And this game, the coaches and players have been begging everybody going to the game to be as loud as possible this weekend. And it's a later game on Sunday, so the alcohol might be flowing a little bit more at that time too. So
there you go.
I'm expecting just absolute chaos when the Saints are on offense. So expect to have to turn down the volume on your TV a little bit when that's happening.
I like it. Yeah. It's almost like the Midwest's version of CenturyLink Field from a few years ago, right? Like how loud the crowd noise is, being able to get teams a false start, miscommunication because of how loud it is. That's also going to be a factor. And one of the reasons why having home field advantage for Minnesota is so important. I guess you guys don't technically have home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs, but you win this, you could face Atlanta. That's at home, and then you host the Super Bowl. So that's going to be wild. Tyler, what do you think schematically? How are the Saints going to come out against the Vikings? All right, never mind. Tyler has passed
I hope he's
away,
all
guys.
right.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm good.
Tyler
I'm
just fell off
here.
a building. Are you okay?
My phone fell off the building.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm glad you're okay.
No, I'm good.
All right.
I'm still here, guys. I'm still here. So,
All right.
schematically, I would love to see the Saints be super risky and super, I would just, it's Sean Payton. It's the playoffs. I would love to see what most people expect from Sean Payton every game. Him to go balls to the walls. No regrets kind of game. But I feel like with Minnesota, you almost have to be a bit conservative in the sense that you don't want to make anything. You don't want to make any plays. You don't want to commit any turnovers. You don't want to do anything stupid that'll really switch the sides. They'll really give Minnesota the advantage. But I would love to see a couple, downfield plays. That'd be nice. But I think what the Saints are going to do, I think they're going to be really conservative, though. If that had to be my guess.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a chess match. I think at least the first quarter, the Saints are going to be very conservative to kind of match how the Vikings are playing, kind of get that tempo consistent throughout the game. And again, the Saints are one of the most penalized teams in the league. And again, when you watch these guys, though, it doesn't really seem like that. When you're watching the game, the stat will come up during the fourth quarter. Oh, this team has 9 penalties for 80 yards, and you're like, when did that happen? I don't remember seeing that. It's just slow, progressive penalties that eventually build up for the Saints. So the more conservative we are, I believe the less penalties we're going to accumulate. That's going to be hard in this environment. So, yeah, I have a feeling first quarter, Sean Payton's going to come out. Again, it's a chess match. Both teams are going to get a feel for each other. And then you're going to see some trickery plays, or maybe not even trickery, but, at least some risky plays from the Saints. Specifically, again, trying to do a bomb to guys like Ted Ginn Jr., maybe even you might see Willie Snead, Tommy Lee Lewis going down the field. Sean Payton typically likes to try to open up the floodgates, so to speak. Late first quarter, early second quarter, we saw it against Carolina. We saw it against Los Angeles. We saw it against a couple other teams this season, Green Bay. I think conservative is going to be the name of the game early on. And then after that, like I said, it's a chess match. Whichever team decides to take that one shot has the chance to swing this game's momentum in their favor. I think that's going to be something to watch out for. But again, the Vikings, I'm just worried the Saints are going to have a lot of penalties because of how great this Vikings home field advantage is. I'm really worried about that.
And the Vikings are one of the least penalized teams in the league, too.
Vikings are one of the best, most disciplined, best coached, least penalized teams in the league. And I feel like if Mike Zimmer wins this, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I'm sure you're on the same page. I'm sure you're already voting him as Coach of the Year. If the Vikings win this one, my vote goes from Sean McVay to Mike Zimmer for Coach of the Year.
I try not to think too much about awards because, so much of it is out of your hands. And then you see situations where, Harrison Smith's an all-pro, but he doesn't make the Pro Bowl.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that weird how that works out?
Yeah, it's weird.
So, I try not to stay, pay too much attention to all the awards and everything because, they're fun. Essentially, it comes down to, and I don't know if the Saints fan base is the same as the Vikings because just how hungry we are for a Super Bowl, but it's all about the ring. We need the one. We need the one ring. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, Oh, individual achievements, cool. I'd love Mike Zimmer to get Coach of the Year, but for now, that's nowhere near on my radar.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So I've got one more question for you, Adam. Oh, if you had to guess, what would you say the score predictions are going to be for Sunday?
I think we're talking about that a little later, right? Or no, that's now.
We'll
That
talk
is
about
now.
now. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
wait.
No,
No,
we're not.
wait. Tyler skipped something. We're gonna hold on.
Oh, wait.
No.
Oh wait, sorry, I got it.
Tyler
Only
did skip
take away
something.
most from
That's
the
right.
Vikings season. Sorry.
Yeah. Adam, what since how great this Viking season has been? What are you gonna take away most from this? Like
What I took away most is I took away that the Vikings have so much youth and depth. I did not realize just how many pieces of this team were so young and how far down the depth chart it goes before you get to players where you're just kind of like, I wouldn't really trust that guy to go in the game too much. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's that the Vikings are built for the long haul. If they can re-sign a lot of their own players, it's going to be, the Vikings as a threat for many, many years. And yeah, there are going to be players retiring. Terrence Newman is probably gone after this year. Joe Berger is probably gone after this year. But other than that, it's a really young team with a lot of great pieces, and it's making me really excited to be a fan, even just talking about that.
Totally forgot to mention Terrence Newman throughout this podcast. My bad. I meant to bring him up earlier. He's been great for you guys.
He's questionable this week on the injury report.
Yeah, wily veteran for you guys who's been able to make plays in the backfield as well as obviously in the secondary. Obviously, older guy, has been around the league for a long time Dallas Cowboy, correct? And he's been playing really good for you guys, and I mean, hopefully he's good to go. I think he's a really important part for you guys' defense. He's kind of almost an anchor, so to speak. Not only
really
physically,
is.
but
the
mentally.
Vikings tried replacing him a little bit when they were bringing guys like Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah,
Mackenzie Alexander isn't quite there yet, but I love what he brings to the team. So I can see the Vikings trying to prepare for when he exits, but it's so hard to replace a guy like Terrence Newman who's been working with Mike Zimmer for so long.
And Mackenzie Alexander is a rookie this year, correct?
No, I believe it's the second year.
He's a second-year player? Okay, gotcha, yeah. And he went to Clemson, which is also obviously born and bred football school. So, again, just showcasing the talent. Tyler, whether or not I guess we'll go more in depth about it next week, whether the Saints win or lose. But let's say the Saints lose on Sunday against the Vikings. What's the biggest thing you're taking away from this season when you look at it overall as a scope?
We didn't go 7-9.
We did. Thank you. No, that's perfect, dude. We did not go 7-9. We avoided the 7-9 curse. Oh man, I'm so. That just makes me so. I mean, that the season is complete because of that. Doesn't matter what else happens. But I think also that win against Carolina really put the season into fruition. I feel like if we would have lost Carolina, even though we went 11-5 in the regular season, this year would have been a complete disappointment. So glad we got that off our chest. So let's jump into score predictions. Vegas has the Vikings favored at 5 points right now. I want to say they opened up as 4-point favorites, maybe even a little bit less than that, but it's kind of grown throughout the week. Let's start with our fantastic guest, Adam. Score prediction for you, man.
Well, earlier this week I did the expert predictions, the expert picks for the game this week on the Viking Age, and it seems like a lot of the experts are picking the Saints to upset the Vikings. And, well, I understand why the appeal is there. I've always been a firm believer that defense wins championships. And I am picking Minnesota in this one, but I do think it's only going to be by, 3 points.
Okay.
So I'm expecting somewhere around, maybe, 30-27, somewhere in there.
I like it. What do you think, Tyler?
Saints 25, Vikings 21.
Okay. You think the Saints have a little bit of advantage in this game? Think they're going to be able to pull it out?
I don't know if they have an advantage, but last possession wins the game. That's what I've got.
I like it. I don't think I've done this on the podcast yet. I might have done it when we were previewing Week 3 against Carolina when we were 0-2. But even then, I don't think I picked against New Orleans. It's the first time I'm going to. I think this is. I'm so sorry. I have to. Again, watching tape on this Vikings team, the talent they have, the schemes they run, the personnel groups, They have your guys' special teams even is somewhat decent. I mean, Kai Forbath.
Yeah, they got a good unit.
Kai Forbath has been pretty good for you guys this season. After being cut from the Redskins, coming over to you guys, and you guys obviously having those woes with Blair Walsh, who's now doing
and
bad
punter
stuff in
Ryan
Seattle,
Quigley didn't have a touchback all season,
which is great. Yeah, you guys have really good players in all areas of the field. I'm going Vikings 31, Saints 30. I think it's going to be close. I hate picking against the Saints, of course, but I'm sorry, Tyler. Like I said, this is the first time I think I'm picking against them this entire podcast, though. I haven't picked against them.
All of us have the game severely close, though. This should be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a great game. Hopefully, it's not one of those games, one of those playoff games where you go into it and you're like, oh, this is going to be a great close game, and then it ends up being a blowout, one or the other. Those are the worst.
Yeah. So I think now is the perfect time to take this break. But when we get back, we're gonna answer some fan questions that we've pulled from Twitter and Facebook. So stay tuned for that, guys. All right, guys, we are back. We've got some amazing fan questions. If you haven't been listening so far and you're listening now, we have amazing guests with us. We have Adam, who covers the Minnesota Vikings. So let's kick it off here. Let me pull up these questions. Let's see. We've got.
I like you guys keep calling me amazing. I dig that. You guys are gonna let that go to my head.
Amazing Adam Carlson. That is your new nickname.
Yeah, there you go. So let's start it off with Twitter. So I think this one is more for you, Dayton. But Adam, of course, if you have something you'd like to say about it, feel free to. So our good buddy, my good buddy, I don't know if you know him, Dayton, Jordan Carter, he asks, he's at Carter_era22 on Twitter. He asks, if and when the Saints beat the Vikings, Dayton, would you rather have the Saints play a tough division matchup at home against the Atlanta Falcons or against a vulnerable Eagles team in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I guess afterwards, Adam can answer the same for the Vikings. Yeah. The Vikings end up winning. For me, if the Saints, this is such a tough question. I mean, people have been thinking about it as well. First of all, I just want to get past Minnesota first. I mean, I don't care who we face in the NFC Championship game. If we make it there, we could be playing the freaking 1985 Bears in the NFC Championship game this year, and I wouldn't care as long as we get there. But if I had to choose, this is so tough. I'm going Atlanta. Just because I don't know how good this Philadelphia Eagles team really is. I mean, they're good, but I feel like Minnesota is a better overall team than Philadelphia, with or without Carson Wentz being healthy. And I know that's kind of ludicrous to say because of how great of a season Wentz had before he went down, but there's no there's a glaring problem for Philadelphia. There's not really any for Minnesota. The glaring problem for Philadelphia is their secondary, and I feel like Atlanta's going to be able to tear that up. So I feel like we're going to be playing Atlanta, and I would love to beat Atlanta for the second time this season out of 3 games at home in the NFC Championship game. Send them home, go to the Super Bowl, go right back to Minnesota. That's what I would like to see. What for the Vikings, Adam? Who would you rather face?
Oh, this isn't as tough of a question at all for me, because if the Eagles win, the Vikings have to go to Philadelphia, and if the Falcons win, the Vikings get to stay home, and maybe get a little bit more of revenge on a team that has done them a little bit wrong in the past. So a lot of people have been calling this a weird redemption tour for the Vikings where they, can beat the Saints, then beat the Falcons, and go on to maybe beat the Steelers. And it's like, I don't see it that way at all. I get why people would still be bitter about some of those games, some of the calls and whatever. But to me, that's all in the past. A lot of these guys on the field don't even remember a lot of that. So, yeah, I would love to see the Falcons win just so Minnesota has that home field advantage. But like you said, I mean, you got to face whoever comes in front of you. And I believe that the Vikings are well equipped to take on anybody that comes in their way. So I'm ready.
You guys beat the Saints, or you beat us week 1, and you guys beat the Falcons as well, 14-9. I can't remember which week it was. Was that week 13, 14? It was kind of. I think it was later on in the season. I want to say it was like week 15 or something. It was a great game by you guys. Yeah, very, very methodical way. You guys were able to just control that ball. So that would be interesting if you guys beat us and then ended up facing the Falcons and then the Steelers. That would be interesting. But like you said, you hit it right on the nail of the head. You just got to play whoever's in front of you. Tyler, who would you rather face, man?
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. Atlanta, just because the Saints would be home, and I feel like out of the two teams, Atlanta would probably play us better. And I think, like, if the Saints, let's say they beat the Vikings, if the Saints want to, like, solidify their chances of making the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, it has to be against the toughest teams possible, and, like, let's say me and my metaphors, let's say you're in the gym and you're weightlifting, if you want to go lift 100 pounds over there, you're not going to be able to do it by lifting 5-pound weights and 10-pound weights. Yeah, Atlanta, I just called you soft. Get at me. Or not Atlanta, Philadelphia. But you'd have to you're gonna have to lift a hevier weight if you want to get to the biggest weights. So that's my metaphor.
So you think you think Atlanta would be a tougher team for us than Philadelphia?
Yeah, they.
Okay.
I think so too.
A better quarterback. They've got a lot of better stuff right now.
Yeah.
But I also believe that whoever wins this game between the Saints and the Vikings is going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I think so too. I think so too. I think that's the right now it's turned into the consensus type thing. Like these are the two best teams in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. I actually was rooting last week. I was like, okay, the Rams got to win because I don't want to face the Saints yet. I want another team to have a chance at knocking them out because the Saints were the team that scared me the most coming into the playoffs, and here they are right away. So.
Yeah, there you go. But, okay, so the next one I've got is from on Twitter, a guy that I know. His handle on Twitter is @who_is_jmaple. He asks, okay, so who's going to cover who in the game Sunday? Will it be Stephon Diggs versus Ken Crawley, Marshawn Lattimore versus Adam Thielen, or vice versa? And then we also have another question. Don Stephan asks, who do you think will cover Rudolph, Thielen, and Diggs? So let's start with you, Adam. What do you think? Who do you think will cover who?
I honestly have absolutely no idea. I feel like this question is much better suited for you guys. Okay. I do believe that Thielen moving around is going to be a little bit of a problem for anybody trying to mask, one-on-one coverage because he goes to the slot a lot. And then they'll move, like Kyle Rudolph outside, or they'll just shift players around in strange ways that could make things very difficult. But, yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this because I honestly have no idea.
I hate to break it to you, Adam, but I have no idea either. Honestly, I mean, if I had my choice, I'd go Lattimore on Diggs and Crawley on Thielen, but also have a high safety at all times going back against Thielen. Have help with Crawley going up against Thielen. And I would have Craig Robertson cover Kyle Rudolph. I don't know if I think Craig Robertson is their best cover linebacker currently that we have right now. But I have a feeling that Manti Te'o is also going to see a lot of reps against Kyle Rudolph. And it all depends on, again, if we're going to be blitzing Case Keenum off in this game, we're going to be doing a lot of man-on-man. But if we play a little bit more conservative, we're going zone. And I think zone is just as much, if not more dangerous than man, because it's so easy to find those holes, especially when we talked about Diggs and Thielen finding openings in the field. So if we're doing man on man, if I had it my way, again, I really have no clue how Sean Payton's going to play this, but if I had to do it and how I think it may go, Lattimore on Diggs, I think it's still number one guy on number one guy. I think that's still how the Saints are going to view it. Crawley on Thielen with high safety over the top at all times. And then Robertson on Rudolph. What do you think, Tyler?
I actually think that Rudolph is the bigger threat. I think Crawley would take Thielen, Lattimore would take Stephon Diggs, and I would like to put P.J. Williams against Kyle Rudolph with either Marcus Williams or Von Bell.
I like that.
Around the area. I think that does a pretty adequate job of covering everybody. Hopefully.
I like that. Yeah, you might as well just put a cornerback on Rudolph. I mean, P.J. Williams is going to be undersized, and I don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy for this game. He did show up on the injury report, but I'd love to see a 3-cornerback set, or even bring down Von Bell and have 2 cornerbacks and a safety covering their top 3 guys. I like that. Yeah.
Or maybe a 4-2-5. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. Play a little bit of nickel.
Yeah, I agree. So St. Charlie, your boy, Dayton, our boy.
My boy.
He asks, from Twitter, of course, how can we exploit such a stout defense and maintain a ground game? What do you think, Dayton?
Yeah, I think that alludes to what I was talking about earlier about my X factor. It's going to be attacking the middle of the field, and Adam also said it when we were talking about Ted Ginn Jr. If you're able to get Ted Ginn Jr. over the top, kind of pull that defense back, it's going to open up a lot of the running game. Getting the screen passes going as well, it's going to make Minnesota think twice about having guys, come down, either blitzing or just loading up the box. And then that'll kind of open up some running lanes. But I think overall, this defense is just really good. It's all going to depend on how well Ingram and Kamara run the ball. Because they got bottled up a lot against Carolina. Did not look very good. Going up against an even better defense, especially defensive front in Minnesota, it's going to be really tough. It all depends on how well Ingram and Kamara get going, as opposed to how we're actually going to play against. We can't really predict how we're going to be able to open up this Vikings defense for the run game. It all depends on how good we're going to run it, because I think this Vikings defense is going to play well no matter what we do. So I think it just all falls on the performance of Ingram and Kamara individually.
The best advice I can give the Saints in this game is if you are a running back and you see Linval Joseph, run the other way.
Yeah. Literally just
so many teams this year have made so many mistakes of just pounding the ball right at him, and he swallows them up.
Mm-hmm. And there you go. Good answer for that, Adam. But for me, it's funny, Dan. I'm gonna take it a little bit different route than you did. What was your answer again, Dan?
I don't know. It was pretty complex. Go to the middle of the field, pull back the defense, but it all depends on Ingram and Kamara, honestly.
Okay, I'm gonna say variety. I'm gonna say mix it up. Sean Payton, he's a guy who did an onside kick the last time the Saints made the Super Bowl. I'm gonna say, throw in any single thing you can think of, like personnel packages, chip blocks, any of that good stuff. I think, we already played it once. I think the best way to get a team off guard is to do something they don't have any film on, do something that they can't prepare for, flea flickers, reverses, anything. I think, not that I'm saying go all like trick plays every single play, but I'm saying do something that will throw them off, catch them off guard, play action, anything like that to confuse them. Because obviously the Vikings have a lot of talent on the defense, and if the Saints decide, like I said earlier, I would like to see them stay conservative, but if the Saints decide to do elsewhere or otherwise, I would love to see them really, if they're going all in, they're going all in. That's what I'm going with.
And this has worked against the Vikings earlier this season. You saw against Carolina where they had the angled punt, where they did the fake catch that was able to come back. And I believe that kind of trickery against a team that's trying to play so solid of defense can work at times. And maybe the Saints will try to take advantage of that. I hope they don't, because personally I just want this to break down into a smash mouth game where I think the Vikings can win it. So I want to keep the trickery and the big plays to a minimum. But, yeah, I believe the Vikings can be vulnerable in that aspect.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. We've actually got the last few questions we have are actually from our good buddy Ed Lyons on Facebook. He has a couple for us. So I'll start with you, Adam. Michael Thomas versus Xavier Rhodes. Who has the edge and why?
I can't go against Xavier Rhodes, right? He's been shutting down the best wide receivers in the league all year. And even Devontae Adams said that he fears going up against him just because of how physical he is, how he can knock these receivers back and knock them off tracks, mess up their timing. And I really do believe that giving Xavier Rhodes that massive contract that the Vikings did was one of the best moves that they made. And he is going to be a major factor, but in Minnesota, there's this weird thing where Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith don't even get mentioned anymore because you expect them to be excellent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
They've been playing really good. This is part of the reason I chose Minnesota. I think Xavier Rhodes may have the upper hand in this, and that's why it's so important for Ted Ginn Jr. to get down. Look, love Michael Thomas. I love his game. But Xavier Rhodes has been playing really, really, really good this year. He's part of the reason this secondary has improved the way they have. I mean, he's been playing pretty good his entire career. Few years he's been in Minnesota, but this year he's really stepped up. Michael, it's all going to depend on the play calling. I'm glad you brought up the play calling earlier, Tyler. During the last question, because the play calling against Carolina was not very good the first few drives, and then it really picked up. So it's all going to depend on how we're going to utilize Michael Thomas and if we're gonna try to get some chip plays against Xavier Rhodes, because it's gonna be it's gonna be 1-on-1 for those guys for a majority of the game, and it's gonna be tough. If I had to give an advantage though, I'd go Rhodes. And again, because it's a home game as well. I think that'll have a factor into that.
Yeah. Man, I guess I'm going solo wolf on this, but I'm gonna give the edge to Michael Thomas simply because he can't guard Mike. Look at his Twitter handle, man. Not that really factors into anything, but he can't guard him. And he's gone up pretty well against most of the cornerbacks and safeties this year. And I remember reading an article that he didn't go up 100% of the time against Rhodes the last time they met. But I would love to see an intense matchup between the two. And besides, Michael Thomas is godly at catching the football and running routes. So I think it's going to be interesting to say the least. But I'm going to go lone wolf and say my boy, MT.
I like it. I like it.
So,
he'll respect that. He'll respect that. I like it.
Okay. So the next question Ev has for us, I'm going to change it a little bit. So the original question, I guess, would be for you, Dayton. Can the Saints defensive tackles hold up against the running game? But for Adam, I want to ask you, too, which running back of the running backs that the Vikings utilize will have the biggest game or the biggest impact against the Saints? I guess we'll start with you, Dayton. Can the Saints defensive tackles hold up against the running game for the Vikings?
Yeah, I think they can, and that's going to be key. Rankins really draws a lot of double teams towards him. I think that's going to kind of open it up for guys like we talked about, Tyler Davidson and David Onyemata. I said that right. Yeah. Cool. David Onyemata. It's not going to be a walk in the park to contain these guys, but again, Vikings defense, like Adam said, very slow, methodical, conservative. So they're going to run the ball on first down quite a bit, even on second down. So we're going to get a lot of opportunities to stop these guys, and as long as and we're playing with a lot of backups in Davidson and Onyemata. But as long as those guys are able to take advantage of Rankins being double-teamed whenever he is, and when Rankins isn't double-teamed, he's able to clog up the middle, which is good. So, it's going to be something to look out for. But to answer the question, I do think they can.
What do you think, Adam? Which running back do you think will have the biggest impact going forward Sunday? Do you think it'll be Latavius Murray or the other running back the Vikings utilize?
Latavius Murray's been on fire lately. I mean, when you line him up at the goal line with 1 or 2 yards to go, he has this ability, and I don't know how he really does it, to just kind of fall forward for a yard if he needs to. I mean, once you get him stopped, he still picks up that little chunk.
Yeah.
But I do think that while Murray will be very valuable in short yardage situations, we are going to see Jerick McKinnon a lot because of that speed around the edge. And I really believe that that's going to be one thing the Vikings are really going to try to establish early on in this game is maybe some jet sweeps with Jet McKinnon, where he earned the nickname. Uh-huh. He has that speed around the corner, and I think that they're going to keep running that to try to open up some more swing passes and try to get him open in the flat a little bit more to where he can catch the ball and run. Because while Case Keenum isn't known for taking a lot of shots down the field, he can pick up a lot of yardage on short throws and runs, and that's where the Vikings become really dangerous, is when they can move the sticks and do that on a regular basis.
There you go. Yeah, I think just like typical running the ball, I think the Saints hopefully, I don't know if I'll say they have the advantage, but I'll say hopefully they hold things down. If they don't, I think that's another issue the Saints have to worry about. But I think I agree with what you said there, Adam, how the Vikings succeed at that. I think sometimes that can even be a liability for the Saints. Running around the outside, running around the edge, because our defensive linemen, they're big guys. Dennis Allen likes to use big people. But the thing is, though, not all of them are very fast. So you might see maybe 5, 10, 15 yards gain around the edge before you can have Lattimore or Crawley come down and finally make a tackle. But, I agree with you, though. So the last one I have from Ev, and the last question in total, let's see. I'll do the same thing what I did last time. So the original question was, this would be mostly directed to you, Dayton. Can the Saints young secondary make big plays to bail out the offense if the offense stalls or makes mistakes? I guess the question for you, Adam, would be, do you expect the Vikings to make turnovers against the Saints offense? But I guess whoever wants to take it, go right ahead.
I'll jump in and say I don't see a lot of turnovers happening because Drew Brees is too smart, and the Saints don't I don't believe the running backs fumble a lot, but I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Not entirely. Sometimes
They don't. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, they don't fumble.
But the Vikings can rely on that number one third down defense and just take the team off the field that way. And while the Vikings don't get as many takeaways as they should, there's still quite a few sacks. There's, the third downs, getting them off the field. And that's where I think the Vikings are really going to succeed in that aspect. I don't think – when I think of the Saints, I don't think of a team that's going to make a lot of mistakes and let another team capitalize on them too easily. So especially when you're playing against a team like Minnesota that isn't known for having a ton of offensive firepower, even though they did have some really high-scoring outputs this year. But, yeah, I mean – I don't see the Saints offense struggling as badly. Like I said in my score prediction, we're going to see both teams in the high 20s for points. We're not going to get to see, a 7-3 or whatever win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a hard-fought game, but we're going to see points scored, and
yeah,
it should be fun.
Yeah, we're not going to see Jaguars Bills.
No.
Wild card matchup, 10-3 game type stuff. I'm with you, Adam. Neither of these teams make too many mistakes. I think the only way either quarterback is going to throw an interception or two is if they're under an immense amount of pressure and they, just make a mistake like a lot of quarterbacks do. Even the best of the best do it. We see Drew Brees happen to him most recently, Week 15 against the Jets. He threw it right into Leonard Williams' arms, and that's because he was under pressure and he tried to get the ball off to Alvin Kamara. Throw wasn't on point at all, and it went right to the Jets. Other than that, though, I don't see it. As long as both of these guys can get at least a step or two outside of the pocket, I feel like there won't be too many turnovers at all, especially not coming via interception. And the Saints secondary looked okay against Carolina. They looked great. I shouldn't say great. They got some turnovers against Tampa Bay. I think they picked off Jameis Winston 3 times. Robertson had 1, and Marcus Williams had 2. Other than that, I really don't see the Saints being able to pull off too many turnovers at all for their secondary. And I'm glad Ev said that they were young, this young defensive secondary, because it is. We got a lot of rookies, a lot of second year players playing, some undrafted guys as well in that secondary. So it's going to be interesting to see that. But again, controlled environment. Minnesota's at home. Keenum is good under pressure, if not, been pretty great this season by his standards. So yeah, I don't see a lot of interceptions happening. What do you think?
I was trying to think of my response, how I was going to word this, but I think two very disciplined teams. I think we've all really agreed that it's probably going to be a really clean type of game. Everything's going to most likely go in the favor, the team that's trying to do it. Like both teams are going to succeed. Like we mentioned, probably be more than 20 points scored on each end. Now, if you were to ask me, would I like to see the Saints the Saints defense make some turnovers? The answer would be absolutely yes. You give the ball to Drew Brees, great things happen. He is the GOAT. But if you were to ask me, would I expect anything to really happen against this team? I would most likely say no, simply because of teams play their best football in the playoffs. Even though the Saints have a lot of playmakers on the defensive side, the Vikings are good on offense, so I would expect no. But that would be my answer to that.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Last questions, though. We just want to thank everybody, though, who submitted questions to us. We appreciate the love and support from you guys. So thank you.
Wow, what a show! That was episode 30B for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got to thank Adam as well. Thanks for coming on.
I do want to ask you a couple questions though, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
All right, so the main thing that I'm dreading going into this game is the commentary.
Okay.
Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. How do you guys feel about that duo?
Okay, I think I'm in the minority. I don't mind Joe Buck that much, but the more I watch him, the more I understand why people don't enjoy having him commentate their games. I think Troy Aikman. I'd rather have Joe Buck than Troy Aikman. Like if I had to choose one of them, I'd honestly rather go with Joe Buck, teaming up with somebody else than Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman is just, you listen to him analyze football, and I know like I know random people off the street who can talk football better than Troy Aikman does in the booth. The way he just analyzes game, the way it's like elementary school, the way he talks about stuff, and he misses out on so many important things in the game. So that's gonna suck. Hopefully, I mean, it's blacked out for local stuff for the most part, other than radio broadcasts. So yeah, most people are stuck with listening to both of these guys. But yeah,
it's crazy to listen to Aikman, especially when you see what Tony Romo's been able to do. He's been amazing.
He's been fantastic. I wish Romo wasn't at CBS. I wish Romo came to Fox. Fox hosts most of the NFC games. I wish Romo was at Fox.
Yeah,
what do you think, Tyler?
I agree with you. I don't mind it. I mean, as long as they just don't do anything stupid and really like, I think a job of an announcer is to help lift up the entertainment. If a big play is happening, you don't want a guy like not talking about it. You want the announcer to help entertain the audience. You want the announcer to help support the football game. And I just think if they do their job respectively, they'll hopefully make a relative impact on the positive side for the game. That's all I hope for. Just good commentary. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just good commentary.
A lot of TVs are going to be muted for this game.
Oh, I bet. And finally, I have 2 upsets this week in the playoffs.
Like what?
And I was curious if you guys have. I know at least one of you has one upset, but I have the Falcons beat the Eagles this week.
Okay.
And I feel like that upset is. I feel good about that one. But I also think the Jaguars are going to be able to beat the Steelers again.
Think so?
I could see it.
I could see that. That if I see one upset, here's the thing: is that Falcons game and are they? I mean, seeding wise, it's an upset for sure. But it's crazy
as
that
far
the
as
Falcons,
like Vegas odds.
I think they're still 3-point favorites. That's the crazy thing. So seeding wise, that's definitely an upset. And I would go with I'd say if there's going to be an upset, Falcons over Eagles because it's an upset seeding wise. But man, Big Ben could throw 5 picks again, and the Steelers could lose to the Jaguars again, which would be
Wouldn't
wild.
That be something?
This guy I know, he picked the Titans over the Patriots, and I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess you never know, but I don't even think the Titans deserve to be. Their last few games of the season were painful. Yeah, I'm actually going to look that up real quick. What do you think, Tyler? You got any other upsets besides the Saints?
I think I would like to see who I predict to win is the Saints, the Falcons, the most likely the Steelers and the Patriots. But how funny would it be if the Jaguars beat the Steelers and the Patriots basically have a cakewalk to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
How unfortunate is that? It's a team that always seems to miraculously be in the postseason, be in the playoffs, has another easy time doing it again.
Whoa.
Man, you don't think as highly of the Jaguars as I do, man.
Cakewalk?
No,
yeah,
it's
come
not
on.
that. I just feel like I feel like as good as their defense is for the Jaguars, let's say it's a championship game, Jaguars-Patriots, it's in Foxborough. I could just see easily it coming down to a thing where the Patriots somehow manipulate the Jaguars enough where their defense isn't the impact. It gets all put on Blake Bortles as Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that if it's the Jaguars-Patriots, somehow, some way, the Patriots are going to abuse that defense, the Jaguars' defense, and everybody's going to have to rely on Blake Bortles, and that's not going to go so well. That's what I think, though. I think highly of the Jaguars, though. Don't get me wrong. Ramsey is like a beast.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, the Patriots are 13.5 favorites over the Titans, which is
wow. I don't think that's enough.
Pretty crazy. No, I don't think that's enough. That's one of the highest playoff spreads I've seen in my life, and it's still not quite enough. Yeah, Tyler,
do you see where the Eagles and Falcons is at?
Yeah, the Falcons are 3-point favorites. They're a field goal favorite, which is really interesting. But yeah, Tyler, you need to put some respect on Blake Bortles' name, okay? Future Hall of Famer right there. You're talking about. Okay,
and if you don't follow Blake Bortles' facts on Twitter, it's the most amazing.
Oh my God, it's
best account on Twitter. Best. Blake Bortles has beat the Bills in 2 different continents. First time that's ever been done.
I'm a Hall of Famer.
What's that?
If Blake Bortles is a Hall of Famer, then I'm a Hall of Famer.
You're already a Hall of Famer, Tyler.
You're in my Hall of Fame.
You're in our Hall of Fame, Tyler. You count.
You just need more people to sign that petition.
There you go. I like it. All right. Well, man, this was one of the best podcast episodes we've ever recorded. Yeah. Adam, again, thanks so much. Okay, plug away at your social media so people know where to find you. Talk about both of the podcasts that you have, Viking Age, site
on
as well as
Facebook you can
Undead
find
Walking.
us, The Viking Age. Undead Walking is where my Walking Dead stuff is at. We got the Purple People podcast over there, and I don't count on a lot of Saints fans coming over and giving us likes and everything, but I do like when some respectful fans come over and they'll say good game or that kind of stuff. I enjoy that kind of interaction. And on my personal account, I'm always talking about on Twitter. I'm at MNVikingZombie. You can hit me up there. I'm always talking about either football or Walking Dead or wrestling or stuff that has no basis on anything. So feel free, everybody can feel free to add me over there because I'm looking for some followers. I'm looking for some more interaction. I'm looking for more reason to stay on Twitter, and maybe you guys can be that reason. You can check out the Purple People podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Podomatic, Google Podcasts. I don't know. There's a ton of other ones. I bet you if you type in Purple People podcast on wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can find us.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, check out Adam's Twitter. I was looking at it earlier. Great stuff. You actually, I saw your Everson Griffin key to the game tweet as well to that you were playing with somebody, and that's how I knew beforehand coming in here. But again, Adam, thanks so much. If you don't mind staying on while we do our outros, it was a pleasure to have you on. And usually people from listening to our podcast either are super, super nice or they just don't say anything at all. So you don't have
like middle fingers on Twitter. Or...
No, you'll be good. You'll be good. We have some respectful people for the most part. We don't have too many bad eggs. So Tyler, throwing it to you for the outro, man.
Let's do it. Playoffs. Okay, guys, here we go. Thanks so much everybody for tuning in. As always, thank you again for the fan questions. We'll also make sure to put some polls out too sometime, maybe this week. See if you guys can't answer those for us. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at the WDD Podcast. That's where you can find our official Who Dat Dish podcast account. That's where you can answer our polls, submit questions, contact us if you have any Saints thoughts you want to share. We love all that support from you guys. You can follow Dayton Brown on Twitter at Dayton_Brown_. You can follow me at Raymond Tyler M. You could check out Who Dat Dish, their Facebook page. Just search that. You can check out the Who Dat Dish podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, and iTunes. Just search those things. So yeah,
awesome.
That's where you can find us.
Be sure to tweet us. Again, following us on Twitter, best way you guys can keep up. And we'll be tagging Adam as well, so it'll be easier to find his Twitter as well if you just hop onto ours. And again, be sure to check out Purple People Podcast. Be sure to check out the Viking Age, Undead Walking, all that stuff. Thank you again, Adam, for coming on. Thank you again to everybody for listening. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, man. Hopefully we can have you on in the future soon. We might even be able to have you on next week if to review the game. That would be fantastic.
Hey, it could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, man?
Don't forget, hit the Sean Payton.
Oh, hit the Sean. Do you have the audio file to play real quick?
No, I don't.
We'll
play it next time.
We'll play next week. Obviously, the Sean Payton dance is sweeping Louisiana and the entire NFL nation. I know. Hit the Sean Payton, guys. Okay, so again, be sure to tune in on Sunday. It is 3:40 p.m. Central Time, New Orleans time, Minnesota time. That's 4:40 Eastern time, 1:40 Pacific time. Be sure to tune in. It is on Fox. You're gonna have to listen to Buck and Eamon like Adam brought up, but still tune in, support your team, support the Saints, support the Vikings, whoever you guys root for. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us. We'll talk to you guys next week, win or lose. Who dat?